They all believed I was a criminal. My own aunt refused to let me inside her house. My uncle called me a disgrace to the family. Even my grandmother cried after watching the evening news, convinced her oldest grandson had stolen nearly $2 million from investors. There was only one problem. The man smiling in those newspaper photos wasn't me. It was my cousin Ethan. He had stolen my name, my identity, my reputation, and almost my entire future. But the biggest mistake Ethan ever made wasn't stealing my identity. It was assuming I would never figure out how he did it. My name is Daniel Brooks, and until 3 years ago, I lived a life so ordinary that no one outside my small town knew who I was. I worked as a software engineer for a cybersecurity company in Seattle. The job paid well, but I wasn't interested in luxury cars or expensive vacations. Most of my paycheck went into savings because I had one goal. I wanted to open my own cybersecurity consulting firm before I turned 35. My family thought I was boring, especially Ethan. He was only 2 years younger than me, but our lives couldn't have been more different. Ethan loved attention. If there was a shortcut to success, he took it. If there was a camera nearby, he found it. Growing up, he somehow convinced everyone he was the charming one while I was the quiet nerd. Whenever something went wrong, Ethan always had an excuse. Whenever something went right, he made sure everyone knew about it. Somehow people believed him. I never understood why. After college, we rarely spoke. He bounced between sales jobs, cryptocurrency schemes, and online businesses that disappeared almost as quickly as they started. Every family gathering became another presentation about his next $1 million idea. I usually smiled politely and changed the subject. Then one Sunday afternoon, he unexpectedly called me. "Daniel," he said with unusual excitement, "I've got an incredible business opportunity. I already have a job. This isn't about leaving your job. It's about investing." I laughed. "You know, I don't mix family with business." He sounded disappointed. "Suit yourself." That was the end of the conversation. Or so I thought. 3 months later, strange things began happening. My credit card company called asking why I had requested a new platinum business account. I hadn't. A bank in Texas welcomed me as a new customer. I had never been to Texas. An insurance company thanked me for purchasing a luxury yacht policy. I didn't own a boat. At first, I assumed someone had entered the wrong phone number. Then the letters kept arriving. Business loans, tax notices, investment confirmations, luxury apartment applications. Every document carried my name, my social security number, my date of birth, my address. Everything looked legitimate, except I hadn't signed any of them. I immediately froze my credit and reported identity theft. The bank representatives assured me it happened all the time. Someone would investigate. I thought the nightmare was ending. I had no idea it had barely begun. 6 weeks later, I walked into my office. The receptionist looked terrified. "Daniel, there are federal agents waiting for you." 2 men in dark suits stood near the conference room. One introduced himself as Agent Collins. The other remained silent. "We'd like to ask you a few questions." I assumed it was about identity theft. Instead, Agent Collins placed several photographs on the table. Each showed luxury homes, private jets, expensive sports cars, stacks of cash. "Do you recognize these assets?" "No. They're registered under your name." I laughed nervously. There has to be some mistake. He slid another folder across the table. Inside were company registration documents. The CEO's name read, Daniel Brooks. The company had allegedly convinced hundreds of investors to fund an artificial intelligence startup. Almost $2 million had disappeared. Then the company vanished overnight. Agent Collins watched my reaction carefully. "If you're acting, you're extremely convincing." I leaned back. "I've never seen these documents." He nodded slowly. "We believe you. But someone has spent nearly a year pretending to be you." That sentence changed everything. The investigation expanded immediately. I handed over every device I owned, every email account, every financial record, every passport, every tax return. I wanted them to examine everything, because I knew I had nothing to hide. 3 weeks passed without answers. Then my mother called. Her voice trembled. "Daniel, what happened?" "Turn on channel 7. I switched on the television. Breaking news. Authorities searching for tech entrepreneur Daniel Brooks after investors report massive fraud. My photograph appeared beside a company logo I had never seen before. Within minutes my phone exploded. Friends, coworkers, old classmates, even neighbors. Some wanted explanations. Others simply blocked me. My social media accounts filled with hateful messages. Fraud, thief, scammer, con artist. People who had known me for years suddenly believed a television headline more than decades of friendship. The hardest call came from my grandmother. Tell me it isn't true. It isn't. She cried quietly. I believe you. But the rest of the family doesn't. Family dinner that weekend became a disaster. The moment I walked inside, conversations stopped. My aunt folded her arms. So, how many people did you rob? I didn't rob anyone. My uncle shook his head. The news says otherwise. Before I could answer, Ethan stood up dramatically. Everyone calm down. I'm sure Daniel can explain. Something about his voice bothered me. Sounded too calm. Almost rehearsed. I looked directly at him. Do you believe I did it? He sighed. I want to. But the evidence looks bad. For a split second, I noticed something strange. His expensive watch. 3 months earlier Ethan couldn't afford rent. Now he wore a limited edition Swiss watch worth nearly $30,000. I remembered because I had once admired the same model in an airport boutique. Then I noticed his shoes. Custom Italian leather. Another few $1,000s. His new SUV parked outside. Luxury model. Brand new. No one else questioned it. I did. After dinner I quietly searched public business records. Ethan officially earned less than $70,000 last year. His lifestyle suggested millions. Where had the money come from? I hired a private investigator named Laura Jensen. She specialized in financial fraud. After hearing my story she said something I never forgot. Identity thieves almost always become greedy. The bigger the lie, the smaller the mistake. For 2 months, Laura followed Ethan's business activities. She found nothing illegal. No suspicious transfers. No hidden companies. Nothing. It almost felt impossible. Then one rainy Thursday evening, she called. I found something. I drove straight to her office. She handed me a single photograph. It showed Ethan leaving a private mailbox rental store. That's it. She smiled. Look closer. The mailbox number looked ordinary. Until she compared it with the fake company registration filed under my stolen identity. Same mailbox. Same suite number. The shell company that stole $2 million. Received its mail at the exact same private mailbox Ethan visited every Tuesday. It wasn't enough to convict him. But it was enough to start pulling on the thread. And neither of us realized that one tiny mailbox was about to unravel the biggest lie our family had ever believed. The next morning Laura and I parked across the street from the mailbox store before it opened. We weren't there to confront Ethan. We were there to watch. At exactly 9:12 a.m., a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Ethan stepped out wearing sunglasses and carrying a leather briefcase. He walked inside for less than 2 minutes. When he came back the briefcase looked noticeably thicker. Laura snapped several photos. Interesting, she whispered. What? He only comes here after large wire transfers. How do you know? She smiled. I've been watching longer than you think. For the next 2 weeks we documented everything. Every Tuesday. Every Friday. Same mailbox. Same routine. Same briefcase. Still suspicion wasn't enough. We needed proof. Real proof. Then fate handed us an opportunity neither of us expected. One afternoon Agent Collins called. We recovered a laptop from one of the shell company's abandoned offices. Can you come identify a few things? Inside the evidence room sat dozens of boxes. Receipts. Hard drives. Phones. Business cards. Most meant nothing to me. Then I noticed a leather notebook. Its cover looked familiar. Too familiar. When I opened it my stomach tightened. Every page contained handwritten notes about me. My birthday. My college graduation date. My first apartment. My mother's maiden name. The name of my childhood dog. My favorite teacher. Every answer to every security question I had ever used. Someone hadn't guessed my identity. They had studied my life. Agent Collins frowned. Who knew all these details? I answered without thinking. My family. Only my family knew half of those memories. Only one person had always asked oddly specific questions over the years. Then, suddenly old conversations replayed in my mind. What's the name of your first pet? What street did you grow up on? Still using the same email? At the time they sounded like harmless family conversations. Now they looked like research. Collins leaned forward. If you're right, this becomes much bigger. The FBI obtained a warrant for the mailbox. Inside they found unopened bank statements, corporate tax documents, prepaid phones, USB drives. Everything registered under my stolen identity. But the biggest discovery came from a tiny receipt tucked inside one envelope. It was from a local print shop. The receipt listed one order. 300 premium business cards. Customer name, Ethan Walker. The shell company claimed to belong to me. Yet Ethan had paid for the business cards using his real name. Laura laughed when she saw it. There's your tiny mistake. Greed had made him careless. Investigators traced the payment to Ethan's personal credit card. Then they subpoenaed the print shop's security footage. The video showed Ethan approving boxes of business cards with my name printed across them. He wasn't wearing a disguise. He wasn't hiding. He even smiled at the cashier. For the first time we had undeniable evidence. But Agent Collins wasn't satisfied. We're missing the money. The stolen investment funds had vanished. Without them, prosecutors believed Ethan could argue he was only an employee. Someone else could still be blamed. Then another break came from somewhere completely unexpected. My grandmother called. I found something that belonged to your grandfather. She handed me an old metal box from the attic. Inside were family photographs, birthday cards, holiday letters, and one small address book. I almost ignored it, until I noticed Ethan's handwriting. Years earlier, Grandpa had asked every grandchild to write down their signatures for a family memory project. My sister's, Ethan's, everyone's. Laura stared at the page. This is huge. Why? She pointed toward Ethan's signature. Every capital E curved the same unusual way. Every lowercase t had an extra long cross. Exactly like the signatures on the fraudulent corporate documents. A forensic handwriting expert later confirmed what Laura already suspected. The signatures filing the fake companies had been written by the same hand. Ethan's. The walls were finally closing in. Authorities quietly monitored his phone. Within days they intercepted several encrypted messages. One stood out. Move the Cayman money before Brooks figures it out. Brooks. Not Daniel. Not the company. Me. He wasn't talking about another Brooks. He was talking about the identity he had stolen. Investigators immediately contacted international banks. Nearly $1.8 million sat inside offshore accounts connected to shell corporations. The paperwork leading to those accounts contained forged copies of my passport, my driver's license, my tax records, everything. 3 months later, federal agents launched coordinated search warrants. At exactly 6 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, Ethan's mansion was surrounded. Neighbors watched from their windows. News helicopters circled overhead. Officers carried out computers, safes, boxes of cash, luxury watches, designer jewelry, even paintings worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. By lunchtime, every local news station interrupted programming. Tech investor fraud suspect arrested. For the first time, they didn't show my face. They showed Ethan's. Family members who had ignored my calls suddenly wanted to talk. My aunt cried. We didn't know. You never asked. My uncle couldn't even look me in the eyes. I'm sorry. I simply nodded. Some apologies arrive years too late. The trial began 8 months later. The courtroom overflowed with reporters. More than 100 investors attended. Many had lost retirement savings, college funds, life savings. Some had believed they were investing in revolutionary artificial intelligence software. They said they had financed Ethan's private lifestyle. His attorneys tried everything. They claimed he had been framed. They argued someone hacked his devices. Then prosecutors played the print shop surveillance video. The jury watched Ethan happily approving business cards with my name. Next came the mailbox footage. then handwriting experts, then bank transfers, then phone records. Every lie collapsed. Finally, Agent Collins presented the laptop notebook. Page after page documenting my life, my childhood, my habits, my passwords. The prosecutor closed the notebook. Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't identity theft committed in a single day. This was identity theft planned over nearly 15 years. The courtroom became silent. Even Ethan stopped smiling. Then prosecutors called one final witness. Me. I walked to the stand. They asked one simple question. When did you first realize your cousin might be responsible? I looked across the courtroom. Ethan stared back without expression. The moment I noticed he became rich. The defense objected. The judge overruled it. I continued. Ethan always wanted people to believe he was smarter than everyone else. But truly intelligent people don't steal someone else's life. They build their own. No one spoke after that. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty. On every count. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Money laundering. Forgery. Conspiracy. When the judge announced the sentence, Ethan finally looked afraid. 28 years in federal prison. Restitution of every recoverable dollar. Permanent financial restrictions. As officers handcuffed him, he looked toward me for the first time since the trial began. You won. I quietly shook my head. No. The truth did. Months later, authorities recovered almost 90% of the stolen money. Many investors received substantial repayments. Some even thanked me. I always answered the same way. Thank the investigators. They refused to stop looking. A year after the trial, my cybersecurity company finally opened. Its first major client? A national bank. Then another. Then another. Ironically, the case that nearly destroyed my life became the reason companies trusted me. We specialized in identity theft prevention. Every new employee learned Ethan's case. Not his name. Just the lesson. Because the most dangerous fraud doesn't always begin with hackers. Sometimes, it begins at family dinners. With someone who already knows your birthday. Someone who already knows your first school. Someone who remembers your childhood stories. Trust is powerful. But in the wrong hands, it becomes the easiest password to steal. A few weeks before my grandmother passed away, she asked me one question. Have you forgiven Ethan? I thought carefully before answering. I've stopped being angry. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. She smiled gently. Your grandfather used to say character is revealed when nobody is watching. I smiled. Ethan proved something different. What's that? Character is revealed the moment people think they'll never get caught. He squeezed my hand. I think your grandfather would have liked that. Today I still receive letters from people whose identities were stolen. Some recover everything. Some don't. Whenever they ask me for advice, I tell them the same thing. Protect your passwords. Protect your documents. But most importantly, never assume the biggest threat is a stranger. Sometimes the person trying to steal your future is already sitting beside you at the family table, smiling for the photo. And sometimes, all it takes to bring down $1 million lie is one tiny mistake.